Hello and welcome to All Elite Morro. Let's go, Dunphy. What is the crack? Back from Portugal. Um, totally unprepared for this because I watched, I would say, about 7 hours of wrestling between today and yesterday, trying to catch up on the week's happenings because I was away. And normally on a Sunday, I'll watch a little bit of Collision in the morning. Um, and then I'll do a little bit of prep for this. But my prep time was eaten up by watching a little bit of Noah, a little bit of G1, a little bit of Collision. Watched the UFC this morning as well from last night. Didn't watch the whole card. Was particularly interested in a lot of it. But I wanted to see Dustin Poirier's retirement fight. Um, but yeah, so we actually have loads of topics today, despite the fact I feel desperately underprepared. But sure, let's just crack into it, shall we? Great debate on the group chat this morning got me thinking of potential future topics as well. Um, the greatest 100 matches ever project. It's done every couple of years. A lot of people voting on it online. You have to submit 100 matches. I don't feel like I've seen enough international or older stuff for my vote to be effective, or my votes to be fair. But Samoa Joe versus Necro Butcher was fifth, which I love that match. Shane was appalled. Go argue with him on Twitter. He's saying that Shawn Michaels has no matches higher than a Necro Butcher match. He is appalled. Um, but I actually don't know if Shawn Michaels has a match as good as Necro Butcher and Samoa Joe. He might. I'd have to think about it. The Foley 96 one jumps to mind. But yeah, go give Shane some shit on Twitter on the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show page. He wasn't happy. His mind is boggled. It's question time with Adam Hangman. Nah, it's question time with All Elite Morro. Have some great questions came in today actually. Cottle Crow, what do you think of the use of licensed music for entrances? Should they be used more? Absolutely. Absolutely. Licensed music, like particularly in the modern era when you see what it's Def Rebel, I think, with WWE, when you see the slop they're churning out. Like WWE's making money hand over fist. Pay for some bangers, Like um Punk obviously, sure is the most iconic entrance tune on the roster at the moment, licensed. When you use Miseria Canter at Revolution 2022, I think. That was like one of the coolest entrances ever. That was it. Rajgiri on Twitter said it sounds like a remix of the Terminator tune. Idiot. Um, that was awesome. I love Orange Cassidy's "Where Is My Mind." Obviously, Bryan Danielson's "Final Countdown" is just like that song is kind of crap, but also just perfect for a pro wrestling entrance. So yeah, I think particularly current WWE music is so bland. Like, was it this year's? I think it was the last two Royal Rumbles. Nobody's getting a pop because none of the music is recognizable. Whereas if they splashed out a bit of cash on 6 or 7 different pieces of licensed music for specific wrestlers, that would really help people get over, I think. Like entrance is an important part of the package. Um, so yeah, like you think of think of CM Punk. Like that opening bars of that are just like, instantly, like, and it's become iconic. I know it partly become iconic because of Punk. The Anarchy in the Arena because of Drowning Pool is perfect as well. They've actually done loads of deadly stuff with Anarchy in the Arena. And I suspect if Mox goes back to face and if Mox goes back face So you see Shane there in the chat. Shane here, All Elite Morro is very close to being cancelled due to horrendous opinions. This is part of the argument that's continuing on. Um, Necro Butcher, Necro. Shouting Necro, will that get us demonetized? Who cares? Mm. So yeah, like when Mox goes back to face, he might go back to Wild Thing, and I suspect the arena will explode when they hear Wild Thing for the first time in a few years. Great question, Colin. But yeah, the answer's fucking undoubtedly yes. Enter Sandman for the Sandman. That was insane, Oshin. Yeah. So I actually forgot about that one when I was thinking about this question today. That was unbelievable. Um, so there's two kind of questions here that are, I think, are linked, and it's Oshin Mack was in the chat. Yup, and Mark Dowd. Oshin asks, do you think Cody Cena will end up being a double turn with Cena going back face and Cody going heel? And then Mark Dowd's asking, I'm getting a feeling that The Rock will make an appearance at SummerSlam. I know those questions aren't the same, but they're, I think they could potentially be linked. To just need decent writers, if not licensing. Yeah, well, like Jim Johnson was like one of, he just turned out like banger after banger after banger. Um, so to answer your question simply, Oshin, I don't think they're doing a double turn. I think there's been a misinterpretation of um, the Cody Cena SmackDown uh, angle, promo, contract sign, whatever you want to call it. I didn't see any heel isms from Cody in there. I saw pissed off, passionate, fiery babyface. And I really think it would. If you think about the roster makeup at the moment, they're severely lacking in what you would classify as a face of the company. Someone who can, a babyface who can do big media. And yes, by double turning him, you unlock Cena to do that role. But you have to remember, you only have Cena for uh, another, what's it, 5 kind of months, 6 months max. So you're putting yourself in a very difficult position early next year. I think there's a lot of juice still left in Cody as a babyface. And I think turning him now would be way too early. Um, he is the best they have on the roster at garnering uh, like mass sympathy from the fan base in a babyface role. So I don't think they'll do a double turn. But however, I could see a Cody win followed by a Cena turn with potentially The Rock being involved in that. And I think we could see like a Mega Powers thing for the rest of this year with Cena and Cody on the same side as your baby faces. It would be a great way to protect Cena's in ring if he's involved in like a lot of tag team matches on the same side as Cody. It would give Cody a rub, not just having beaten him, that you don't need to do a trilogy then and you have them team for the rest of the year. I could see that happening and against some sort of Rock led coalition, and The Rock doesn't really need to be there for that. Um, and if you remember, why did The Rock come back at Elimination Chamber? The reason The Rock came back at Elimination Chamber is because he got a call from Ari Emanuel. Ticket sales weren't doing that well. And if you look at SummerSlam, we're going to get onto that in a minute. Ticket sales are fine, but they're actually down on the last time during the MetLife, and they supposedly have a hotter product. Now, ticket prices are higher, so that could account for that. But I do think there is a feeling within WWE and TKO in particular that the product is cooling. And what we know from the last time it cooled is Ari picked up the phone to The Rock. And I would not be surprised if that happens again. Now with The Rock, you have to wonder. He doesn't seem to be getting his in back into DC with James Gunn there. James Gunn made some very pointed comments last week that felt like they were directed at The Rock about people. It was kind of, I'm paraphrasing now majorly, but it felt like it was like about people trying to weasel their way in almost. And I kind of felt like that was at The Rock. So he's not getting back in there anytime soon. I know he has the Mark Kerr movie coming out. Um, and that is kind of connected to wrestling. It's an MMA movie. Uh, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see him a little bit over the next few months promote that movie. That is coming out before the end of this year, I think, around October, November. And also the fact that things seem to be cooling, and Ari Emanuel, we have evidence of him previously calling up The Rock to kind of counteract that thing of ticket sales not being great or whatever. Now, like, I don't know. What do you think? Ticket sales for SummerSlam? They've sold over about 40,000 tickets for both night. Now, the MetLife holds 85,000. Um, MetLife's huge. And I think they went, so it's their first time doing two-night SummerSlam, and they went to New York because it's a safe market to do big ticket sales. I'd wonder if they're a little bit underwhelmed with 40,000 ish. I think slightly over 40,000. I wonder if they're a little bit underwhelmed with that in that market, when they've previously done significantly more than that. Who would be on the Rock's coalition team? Personally, I put Drew McIntyre on it because that guy is doing jack shit for months now, and he's one of the best wrestlers they have. Look at what he did last year. Lots of rappers. Yeah, things aren't going great for the Fiend Man at the moment in the rap world either. He just got roasted by uh, what's his name, Pusha T, and he doesn't seem to have any comeback for it. Jelly Roll heel run, face of the company. Jelly Roll top heel. Could see that happening. Could see that happening. Uh, but yeah, I just think like Drew would be perfect. Something led by Drew. Give that man his love and his juice, as much of it as possible, because he could be a tremendous top heel and like a great file for Cody. Have we ever got an extended Cody Drew program? And if we look at the best two programs from the last few years, you'd have to say probably Cody Roman and then Drew and Punk. I think Drew and and like you feel bad for Drew because he got that. He needs to learn politics, man. He got that thing cut from underneath in the Bloodline Hunter. That was like really interesting, and it had a really clear goal that he would hunt his way up to a face Roman Reigns, and he'd get his big program with Roman Reigns after coming off the back of the Punk program, or the Punk program kind of replaced that even. But he performed so well in the Punk program that. Uh, you just give him something big like that again. And I think like having him as the face of like the real evil face of the corporate empire would be awesome. Jamie B asked a question a couple of weeks ago. I didn't get to it last week because we are coming off the back of All In. But do you think WWE could benefit from bringing back time limit draws? Yes, I love time limit draws. You look at WWE as a company, they very, very rarely do time limit draws. They have done sometimes in tournaments and stuff. But a lot of times, if they're trying to get to a draw in a tournament, they don't do it as a time limit draw. They do it as a double count out, double DQ. They've done a lot of two people pin each other at both shoulders down at the same time type stuff. But they've never really done time limit draws. Vince Senior used to do time limit draws. He did a few of them with Bruno and Pedro Morales. I think would be the most famous one. Shea Stadium, 1972 or three. That went to something like an 80-minute time limit draw, or a curfew draw, I believe it was. And they went for 80 minutes. I haven't seen the match. There's no way I'm watching 80 minutes of Bruno versus Pedro. But like Senior did a good few with Bruno. He did one with Gorilla Monsoon as well. And because what would quite often happen with Bruno is that there'd be a DQ or there'd be a count out, and or in this case time limit draws that would build to a huge return match, usually in Madison Square Garden. Um, and it was a really interesting device, but it's not a device that WWE themselves have ever used massively. And I think The Rock and Triple H did a 30-minute time limit draw for the Intercontinental title around the summer of 1998 during that feud. I think it then led to the ladder match at SummerSlam, or to come off the back. I think it led to the ladder match at SummerSlam 98. I might have my timeline mixed up a little bit there, but that's the last time I can remember doing a time limit draw outside of Iron Man matches, because they've done a couple in Iron Man matches. Um, Cena Shawn Michaels do one 2-2. Shawn Michaels and someone did one. Could have been Shawn Michaels and Angle actually. And then you had obviously the famous one WrestleMania 12, Brett and Shawn. But in the case of Brett and Shawn, that went to overtime and you got a victor. Um, a couple of things would have to change in their presentation for time limit draws to actually work. Like you'd have to have, uh, and this is something that I always talk about AEW as well. It drives me mad. They don't do it. They do it in New Japan. When you get a certain distance into the match, to give time calls. So the timekeeper or the ring announcer will announce 15 minutes gone, 20 minutes gone, 25 minutes gone, whatever. And if any of you ever seen the Omega Okada hour-long draw in 2017 Dominion, when the time announcer announced 10 minutes remaining and 5 minutes remaining, the audience went, the crowd in that was in Osaka went nuts because they could feel this thing happening. So you need to have them time cues there for time limit draws to be effective. AEW did some great ones on TV in particular. The only Danielson Omega singles match went to a 30-minute time limit draws and non-title match. And then you had one of the best TV matches you would ever see, the Hangman Danielson hour-long draw. That was incredible as well. Both used really well. The only problem with the use of the Omega Danielson one is it never led to a rematch. Whereas the Hangman and Danielson one led to a fantastic rematch, which Hangman won. Um, and really helped establish him early on as a champion and establish the fact he was growing as a champion. So time limit draws, I think, can be super effective storytelling device, and I would love to see WWE use them, but they would have to, like, if you think of WWE TV, and this kind of leads on to our next topic, WWE have hours and hours of TV a week, and they have a fantastic roster. You look at people who aren't being used, the likes of Andrade, Carmelo Hayes, um, several people like that who, and like I'm going to, Shane sent a list here earlier on, and it's insane the number of talent they have that aren't being used at SummerSlam yet. Now, but most of these won't be used. AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Jerry McDonald, Dragon Lee, Carmella Hayes, James, Pete Dunne, Lucha Bros, DIY, Motor City Machine Guns, Viking Raiders, Rusev, Malachi Black, Andrade, Asuka, Kairi Sane, Bayley, Austin Theory, Chelsea Green, Damian Priest, The Wyatts, Karrion Kross, Sami Zayn, Street Profits, LA Knight, Nakamura, he's washed, Julia, and Stephanie Vaquer. None of them are being used at SummerSlam. And you have hours of TV a week. You could have unbelievable matches on Raw that go to a 30-minute time limit draw. Imagine what that would do to establish any of those as potential top wrestlers within the company. Tag teams, like there's so many tag teams there that could do fantastic 30-minute TV matches that go to a draw and create anticipation for the following week. There's one thing a lot of people might not realize. In recent years, long matches on TV actually tend to grow your rating. Um, and there's two really clear examples of that. There was a gauntlet match that opened Raw a few years ago that went an hour and 6 minutes. I think Seth Rollins wrestled. I think it might have even gone longer, but Seth wrestled for an hour and 6 minutes of it. And the WWE Raw rating kept growing and growing and growing throughout that. And the same with Ospreay and MJF had the 59-minute, 58-second match. Again, that was a match that kept the ratings kept growing because it was almost like a realization that something kind of special is happening. You could do 30-minute time limit draws on Raw, which would be awesome, and allow you to better utilize your roster. Speaking of utilizing your roster, you've got a 2-night SummerSlam coming up. How are people feeling about the build of SummerSlam? I think it's dog shit. Like, you have 2 nights of SummerSlam. The card is pretty weak for a 2-night show, and you're not using all that talent. Like, if we just go through the card here for SummerSlam, Cena versus Cody Rhodes, like that's not going to be a great match. It could be a newsworthy match. Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill, does that feel hot? Not really. We already got the surprise of the Naomi cash in. So it's not going to be on Cargill, which I thought made more sense logically. Randy Orton, Jelly Roll versus Drew and Logan Paul. Like, I feel like even the massive WWE fans don't even like that. Even their like massive fans, the ones that defend them on everything, they don't even like that. Gunther versus CM Punk, that's got no build, and we're going to get to why in a second. Naomi versus Rhea versus Io. Rhea's just lost a singles match for the title. She hasn't done anything really to get back into a triple threat match. Why the fuck is she getting a triple threat for the title? Um, Becky versus Lyra. There's something again that they're just like they're hammering that program could have been spaced out so much better. But I feel like they're just blitzing through it, and I've been like, but now it feels like it's lost heat because they blitz through it so quick, and nothing has had room to breathe. We haven't seen the consequences of anything in it. Judgment Day, which is Raquel and Roxanne versus Charlotte and Alexa. I know some people like what Charlotte and Alexa are doing, but I feel like there's no real solid build to that either. Then Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu, cage match, I think it is, for the United States Championship. That'll be probably a pretty decent match. But we know already they're going to fuck up the cage dip because that's what WWE and that's what AEW do. That's not a tribalist thing. The cage dip is dead because there's interferences in every cage match. I would be so happy if there was no interferences in this. This one of the matches I'm actually most looking forward to, but I didn't really like all that police nonsense on SmackDown on Friday. No, SmackDown. I watched through YouTube clips. I'm not sitting down watching a full SmackDown. Like I don't fucking hate myself that much. That would put myself through that. But getting back to the Gunther CM Punk thing, that is a huge match for the company. That is like a prime time proper. You could main event essentially any show with that match, but it's got no build simply because this company is churning out far too much product. They're flooding the market to try and hurt AEW, for the most part. But also, it's a TKO thing. It's just their content producing machine, and the quality of the content doesn't matter. It's the quantity of the content. We've just come off the back Saturday night's main event, and we're going straight into SummerSlam. Gunther was the main event on Saturday night's main event, but now he has to turn around in 2 weeks and try and build a program. So he was building to the Goldberg stuff, which felt weak, and we'll get to that in a little while as well. And now he's straight back into a cycle of another Punk feud or the Punk feud, and it's like the CM Punk is challenging Gunther for the world title, and it feels like we haven't had any build whatsoever. And it also is like, how did Punk earn the title shot? Has he done anything recently that would feel like he would warrant being the number one contender for Gunther's title? I don't feel like he has. Um, Yet they just need a big name in there for SummerSlam. Just throw Punk in, give him a good promo next week, and we're off to the races. But it feels like that's what WWE are doing with everything. It's just throwing things in and hoping that one of the massively talented wrestlers they have can pull something out for them. Nothing feels like properly planned or thought out. They're depending on individual brilliance to create hype for them. So the SummerSlam build is worrying, man. And it's like, God, and aren't they doing like something very quickly afterwards again? They're just flooding the market. None of their stuff is getting over. It's a massive part of the reason why I think the company is starting to feel quite cold at the minute. Um, and this kind of goes back as well as they're going to do something shocking to get the wrestling media landscape talking about the show. But I feel like they're relying on shock maneuvers. Like, is Seth really injured? They're really trying to sell it now that he is, but there's reports out there that he's not injured, and I think it's very possible that he cashes in on possibly CM Punk at the end of this match. But I don't think they're going to have Punk pin Gunter, so they might do it the way he did at WrestleMania 31 with Brock and Roman, where he makes it a triple threat for the last few minutes and he gets the win. I could see that happening. And they'll call it the heist of the century, and everyone thought he was injured. We're working, we've been worked and so on. I don't know. That's just like shock. They're trying to create an organic shock that's totally inorganic. Um, and yeah, just watch the like if that happens, and I suspect it will. Watch the reaction online and who is. I don't like. To me, that wouldn't be shocking. Um, and again, like I don't know, this set punk thing is just never fucking ending. Like, give me a break. Like, I felt like they had their blow off match months ago. Um, but it's still going on. I'm just fed up with it. I want Punk to work like an honest 4-month program with Gunther, where they have 2 or 3 matches and good promo time and some good angles. And that would be much better than a 2-week program and then do a shock and then have all these wrestling influencers online. Oh my God, I'm so shocked that Rollins pulled off the heist of the century. Oh. Um, like, and WWE just repeat that cycle then of needing shocks to kind of create moments, because that's all it is, fucking moments. So yeah, that's SummerSlam. I don't know where you're at with it, but as you can tell, I am not in a good place with it. And I think the card, like David Ayers there says, except for Cody Cena, I have no idea what's happening. How could you? They haven't built anything with like of substance. The Lyra Becky stuff has been a good feud overall, but I do think that they have begun to flog it a little bit now without giving it the proper depth and space that it deserves, because Lyra's definitely getting over from it, and Becky has taught some of this stuff. Like, Becky has taught the character motivations out really well. But again, just the booking and the matchmaking, like I really like their triple threat match with Bailey, and some of their earlier singles matches. But we're back to it again, and it feels like it isn't the right time for another singles match. Um, and I like I said, I kind of am looking forward to the Jacob Solo stuff. So yeah, like there are things there that I'm looking forward to watching. But am I going to like watch it live, stay up until 4 or 5 a.m. Irish time both nights? No chance. There's not. It's not enough on it for me to do that. Um. Yeah. Next thing then I put down like about these contracts, the Casino Gauntlet contracts. And if you watched Dynamite the other night, they still haven't clarified if these are cash in or call your shot. I think it's really, really important that Tony clarifies that. Um, like this, like, here's the thing, right? You hear a lot online about how AW shouldn't sign XWE wrestlers. I actually disagree with that. However, what I think that discourse should be is that AEW shouldn't do WWE isms. It shouldn't feel like WWE, and having cash-ins, particularly 2 of them, would feel very WWE. And also, I think the reason that Tony is being deliberately vague about this is so that maybe in the future he might want to use cash-ins. I think he needs to be just to get like no more of this vagueness. Be clear, regardless of what it is, own it. But I really do think that, yeah, Christian cashed in, but also the previous year wasn't a cash in, and it was never mentioned until Christian won at that time. That was the first time the Casino Gauntlet things were mentioned as a cash in. So they kind of like, it's like almost Christian made it up. But I think part of the problem is having WWE, ex-WWE wrestlers come in and do things that you would be more likely associate with WWE is a very bad idea, booking wise, because what they've done tremendously well this year is really establish themselves as an alternative. And Max has previously made the mistake of becoming more of a WWE coded style of wrestler, or of character. Whereas the likes of Hangman and Moxley have worked very hard. Swerve, Ospreay, all these guys have worked very, very hard to be alternative. And we can't go back to this thing of, is this WWE 2.0? The promotion needs their identity to be super clear. And when you do things like have vagueness around this idea of, is it a cash in, is it a call your shot, it doesn't lend itself to feeling like an alternative. And me personally, I want an alternative. We just spoke about WWE and SummerSlam, and it not, it being not very well built. Um, so other people are disappointed that there was a lack of. Sorry, I would imagine, given what Christian did at Revolution, they're cashing contracts, but he doesn't want to be seen to copy WWE, so they don't let on anything. Yeah, that's a problem. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Really, is that don't copy WWE and just don't do cash-ins. If you want to do some surprise and stuff, find another way to do it. Be creative. Like Tony, one thing we've learned about Tony is he is quite creative guy. He came up with the concept of the Casino Gauntlet match, which I think is an excellent concept. I don't think either of the Casino Gauntlets at this year's All In were their best ones, but some of the previous ones were fucking awesome, particularly last year's one at Wembley. Um, it's a really creative and interesting concept for a match. And it really flips the kind of Royal Rumble idea aspect of that many workers and pops and countdowns and all on its head with the fact that it can potentially finish quite quickly. So Tony is a creative guy. He shouldn't need to use cash-ins as a way of getting a cheap. I feel at this stage a cheap pop. I don't feel the early cash-ins were as such. I thought they were a good story device, but it's been years and years now. It's probably nearly 20 years since the first cash-in, and if AW are picking them up that long into the cycle, into a cycle that even feels stale in WWE, uh, it's a big no-no for me. Um, Shane had mentioned earlier on, and I've seen other people talk about it online, that did Dynamite this week like do enough to feel like an almost a Raw after WrestleMania? I thought Dynamite was a really good show this week. However, it didn't have. I actually thought it was a very good show. I thought they built it nicely in the direction of some future programs, and also it has some really good wrestling, which is primarily what I tune in for. But also I like storylines too. So I thought they built nicely on future programs, and also had some good wrestling. However, I think AEW is entering into quite a tricky period. So their next big show is like 5 weeks away, 6 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever. The Forbidden Door in London, 24th of August, about 5 weeks. But that is their Forbidden Door show, which is with CMLL and New Japan. However, New Japan are currently in their G1 season, which is the most important part of their calendar. And that, we'll get into it, but they've only had two shows so far. Um, None of them are going to be around for the build to this. They will have CMLL talent, but this show is on in London, and New Japan wrestlers are more popular in London than CMLL wrestlers. New Japan have had a long-standing relationship with Rev Pro, and generally New Japan stuff has drawn well there. They've done a number of Royal Quest shows that have done like 8,000 people, 4,000 on a couple of them, but they have done 8,000 there before, which has drawn very, very well. So the CMLL characters, I think, are going to have to carry this build to Forbidden Door this year, giving the timing of the calendar of it. And they're possibly not going to be as over. Now, maybe it'll be like, maybe they're more over than I expect they are in London. But yes, so they have a difficult time with that build, given the G1 is happening at the same time. And also, they have a quick turnaround after Forbidden Door. I think it's a 2 week turnaround to All Out in Toronto, which I think is going to be the more circumstantial of both shows, or more consequential of both shows. That's probably where we're going to get Max versus Hangman. It's probably where we're going to get. We might get Swerve and Okada at Forbidden Door, because that kind of feels like they've set that up, and it kind of feels a very Forbidden Doory type of match. You could also have maybe something like Hangman and a tag team against MJF and the Hurt Syndicate in a 6-man, which would be great. Um, so yeah, it's hard to like. I feel like they're gonna have, and yeah, they're gonna have a difficult time building both shows at the same time coherently, and also they're gonna have a difficult time with building Forbidden Door given the lack of access to New Japan wrestlers at the moment. Also, there's already injuries in and consequential for AW injuries in New Japan during the G1. G1 is a grueling schedule. Gabe Kidd is already injured. Spoiler for later on. That probably affects plans for Forbidden Door. I thought they were going potentially Ospreay versus Gabe Kidd for Forbidden Door. Ospreay is injured. We don't know how long he's out for. Gabe Kidd is now injured. They're hoping he'll be back for future G1 matches. We don't know. Um, so yeah, like they're in a tricky situation with this build, and it's a bad time for them, especially coming off what has been their best 6 months of storytelling and, in some cases, in-ring product in their 6 years in existence. We're coming off probably their most coherent phase, and so they're going into a tricky spot here with two shows coming up in close quarters. We've seen how Saturday night's main event has affected SummerSlam. Um, so Tony needs to be super clear about what he's building and for what, for which show. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Dynamite. Really, that we're going to probably enter a tricky period. There wasn't any major angles. I would have liked at least one major angle coming off All In, uh, but I thought things were ticking along nicely, and maybe it was a very Tony being a little bit non-committal because the Osprey injury, Kenny's injured, Kenny needs time off at the very least to heal. So he's probably in a situation where he's going, right, I'm going to just build a few small things here and then buy myself a little bit of time on other stuff because let's reassess in a week. Bandido. Meltzer put out a tweet there that I found super interesting. If you look at Bandido's last 6 weeks, he has now got 3 sellouts in Arena Mexico. He's firmly established in Arena Mexico as a top star, major ticket seller, and potentially even the successor to Mystico as being CMLL's #1 drawing act. I don't think he's ready to replace Mystico yet. I don't think Mystico is ready to step aside from that position yet. But I do think they have found someone, if things keep going well with AEW, Bandido could be the future face of Lucha Libre in Mexico. So he has those 3 sellouts. He's also been on a tear on AWTV and matches. Um, David, I agree with that. I always hated those Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series. I do think the first Forbidden Door was a little bit like that, whereas future ones, although the first one was fucking awesome, Dunf was at it. But future ones, they got the builds a little bit better for them, and it didn't feel like that us versus them thing. And it doesn't have to be us versus them. Uh, Spot on, JB. I answered your question on the time limit draws. Finally got to it. Enjoy Anchorman 2. I would give a quote, but I can't remember any from Anchorman 2. I can remember shitloads from Anchorman 1. One of my first ever times acting actually was in a charity version of Anchorman, and I played the sportscaster Chap. No, not Chap. Chips, whatever his name was. The sportscaster guy. One of my first times ever on stage. Back to Bandido. So, so he's been on a tear on AEW television in multi-man matches and singles matches. And if you've seen the Supercard of Honor main event that he had with Takeshita, like certainly a match year contender at the very least. That match was fucking incredible. So this guy is selling out Arena Mexico left, right, and center. If you think about wrestler of the year, that's not a thing where it's just in ring. It's also to do with your ability, fucking champ. Yeah, the footage doesn't exist, although it was recorded for an Irish language channel and it never aired because we did it in English and there was obviously rights issues. Um, as part of some documentary about university or something. But like Bandido had that match with Takeshita, which is a surefire contender for match of the year. But when you're talking about wrestler of the year, you're not just talking about in ring, what they've done in ring that year. It's you also have to factor in things like merch sales, things like ability to move tickets. It's more of an MVP than an in ring wrestler. Although it should include your like if you're selling lots of tickets and your merch is really good, but your matches are shit, I don't think you should win wrestler of the year. If your matches are great and the other stuff isn't great, you probably shouldn't win it either. It has to be kind of a mix of the both. Um, yeah, I agree with you totally, Sean. If ROH had a TV deal, the high like if ROH actually got a TV deal and Bandido was champion and he was getting a show built around himself weekly as the top guy, I think we'd be like firmly going, this guy is like fucking ranked top three wrestler of the year this year. Like coming out of Japan, there isn't many guys who are moving tickets. John Saito in All Japan is moving tickets, but matches aren't fantastic like that. He's not moving mad amount of tickets. He's just like, as All Japan has been going for the last few years, he's moved tickets there. Hangman has obviously had, you know, like if you look at, you could attribute a large part of that 30,000 ticket sales at All In to his title match. They did 175,000 pay-per-view buys, which was 20,000 higher than what I predicted. My last prediction. That's fucking insane. That's their fourth ever highest pay-per-view, and it was on a Saturday afternoon. Um, the only ones to beat it were All Out 2021, uh, Sting's retirement, and there was one more. Oh, the first All In. I think no, last year's All In maybe. I don't know, it's one of the other All Ins. So it's the fourth highest pay per view draw they've done, and the highest North American gate they ever did, both in terms of ticket sales and money earned. So Hangman has a serious case, but we'll see how his reign goes. If ratings and ticket sales and all drop off, then that'll hurt Hangman's case. But Bandido has a serious case now, and he's had one of the best 40-day runs ever seen in wrestling. Not ever, but in 20 years possibly. It's where you could really bring in CML and New Japan talent for pure wrestling matches rather than programs. Yeah, that's fucking great call, Sean. Like if you actually watch Ring of Honor, what they do with the likes of Mascara Dorado there, and Hechicero, the Hechicero Michael Oku match at Supercard of Honor was fucking deadly as well. You could bring in Red Pro guys, everything, and just like have them wrestle because it's Ring of Honor. That's what's fucking built on. It's just like fucking good, solid wrestling matches. Atlantis Junior did a couple of matches in Ring of Honor TV. And I noticed that we call it TV, it's not, it's on the streaming thing. Some of them they put up on free on YouTube, but if they had a proper TV deal and built it around Bandido, I think it would be a success uh, for at a certain level, not as a top company, but at a certain level. But yeah, Bandido's been on a fucking tear, and go out your way if you can. That website I said on the last one, you'll find Supercard of Honor there. His main event with Takeshita was genuinely mind blowing. It might have been a better wrestling match than everything on All In, than everything on Saturday night's main event, than everything on Evolution, which also had a fantastic main event with Io and Rhea. That was sick main event as well. But Bandido Takeshita, I think, was the match of the weekend on a weekend that had four other huge shows. Now, when I'm going, so I said I'm going to do it on this channel at the end of the year. I'm going to pick my top 10 matches of the year, top five feuds, stuff like that. I still think I'd probably vote for Mox and Hangman as my number one, just because the sheer consequence of it. Although Mariah May and Tony Storm's Hollywood ending as well, but as just a straight up wrestling match, Bandido and Takeshita was out of this world good. Uh, Goldberg. Don't know if he wants me to shit on Goldberg because he's pissed off with how his uh, retirement was handled, and he went on the Ariel Helwani show and complained about how it was handled. Don't know if he wants me to shit on him. And John Martin thinks that Goldberg should have main evented SummerSlam. I disagree with them both. I don't think Goldberg at this stage should be main eventing SummerSlam. And I also don't think Goldberg is wrong to be pissed off at how it was handled. Uh, he was used as a pawn in the wrestling war. His retirement was used as a pawn to try and draw eyes from All In, and it didn't really happen. It turned out to be the lowest rated Saturday Night's main event since its return. All In did their fourth ever highest pay per view buys. And I think Goldberg kind of got hung out to dry a little bit by WWE. I think he has a little bit of a right to be pissed off. But from WWE's perspective, I don't think his retirement is big enough to sell SummerSlam. So it's like a thing of I don't know what to even say about this. Like, what do you guys think? I'd love to know what you think because I'm totally on the fence about this. I can see why he's pissed off and he has every right to be pissed off. But also, if you're WWE, what do you do it on a different weekend where it's not going up against the other company's biggest show? Yeah, it's a hard one. Like, I feel bad for Goldberg that it's how it ended. Um, and he's not happy with that. But at the same time, it's 2025, it's Goldberg. What spot do you realistically put him in? Even from his previous, I think there's like a WWE fan base. There was a big turnover after COVID of a new generation of fans came in that aren't particularly interested in shit that happened before that. And you see that online with people like referring to Stone Cold Steve Austin as not a good in ring wrestler. What the fuck? Stone Cold Steve Austin is one of the best in ring wrestlers of all time. Mick Foley is one of the best in ring wrestlers of all time. And I think that's just like a new generation of wrestling fan coming along who don't particularly have an interest in history. I know if I get interested in something, um, I do like to kind of build a bit of context for myself. And I think if you're in this chat here now or watching this live, you're probably the same, like, you know. Um, so I think like a lot of their current fan base just don't care about Goldberg. Dave Lair says he should be pissed off, but you're not really interested in him wrestling. Yeah, that's basically exactly how I feel. Goldberg was led down a merry path, yeah, but also he never really held a nostalgic feeling the likes of Sting held with fans. That's true as well. Whenever Goldberg's returns, he always met with groans along with cheers. That is true. He's much more divisive. Like I feel like Sting is more universally loved. Wouldn't surprise me if Tony Khan gave Goldberg a call and said, "Do you want Sting treatment?" Funny you should say that. They did negotiate before, and Tony didn't take him up on it. I think he was looking for too. I don't know if he was looking for too much money, or Tony felt he wouldn't really fit in, which he wouldn't. So that was actually talked about 2 summers ago. Yeah, Shane. This isn't me at the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show. This is Shane. Yeah, all those noobs are stupid. It's like the Undertaker's overrated. Imagine that. Undertaker is overrated. He's great, but overrated. Uh, Undertaker's not in the top 100 wrestlers of all time, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind. He might be in the top 100, to be fair. He's not in the fucking top 10 or top 25, anyway, that's for sure. Probably not even the top 50. And I can say that because I watched his whole career. I started watching wrestling in 1992. I've basically seen Undertaker's whole career, and he's overrated, but a great character. Um, So yeah, I just think that I think it is important to acknowledge that there probably was a turnover in particularly WWE fans around 2020, 2021, where we see a new wave of fans coming in. And I feel like it's the same if you're ever on football Twitter, if you follow football Twitter, there's a real like this younger generation of fan. There's a real like disregard for the history of the game. I was a secondary school teacher for years and I saw it firsthand. Um, 15 years almost as a secondary school teacher. I saw it firsthand with younger people. I was a history teacher. They just, it's very much younger people are about the here and now, and and I understand that feeling of they want the now generation to be the best generation because I'm sure we do as well. But yeah, there isn't a respect for his history there. People think Goldberg will get better send off in AW are mad. Sting basically turned into New Jack for his last run. Sting gets New Jack for his last run. I loved Sting's last run. His last run was great, but his last match was amazing. Um, so what's next? Yeah, if you're interested in Noah just had a fucking bonkers weekend. So Ozawa here, the guy with the sunglasses, has been the champion for the last, God, it's at least 6 months. I think he won it, yeah, around January. He beat Kaito Kiyomiya, and he lost it really shockingly to Kenoh at New Departure Day One on Friday night. And I watched New Departure Day One. The opening match, Kenta was in a tag match, and Kenta lost in the tag match. He didn't get pinned, his partner got pinned, but he was on the losing side. Kenoh wins in the main event against Ozawa, which was a shocking enough victory as it was. And Kenta comes out to challenge him for New Departure Day 2, or Night 2, which was on last night, Saturday night. And then Kenoh loses. Kenoh's his fourth title run. He loses to Kenta. He's champion one day. So it goes from Ozawa to Kenoh to Kenta in one day. Ozawa's been a huge draw for him. Now, Ozawa's young. He's like 25, 26. He's only wrestling like 2, 3 years. He is a bit green, but he's extremely charismatic. It'd be almost like if WWE put the title now on Braun, like top title on Braun Breaker, and ran with him, like pushed him as the top guy, as Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns. Like it's that level of push that Ozawa was getting. He's a faction built around him. He's very charismatic. He's probably even a little bit more green than Braun Breaker is. I'm not saying Braun Breaker's green, but obviously he's not as refined as, particularly in a main event style. You know, if he has to have 30 minutes, this match between Ozawa and Kenoh is 30 minutes, 28 minutes or something. Uh, It'd be like putting Braun Breaker in as your top champion, pushing him as Roman Reigns, and putting him in 30-minute main events. Now, they do protect him a little bit with his Team Head 2000X, whatever faction is called, running in and doing interference spots and stuff. But he's been drawing big numbers, like really good numbers for what Noah do. And they've taken the title off him. And I'm very confused by the booking, particularly to go to Kenoh to Kenta, and particularly Kenta coming off tag loss. I mean, are they setting up a Kenta versus Marufuji title match in 2025? Oh, fuck, I don't know. I don't know. We saw the AJ Styles Marufuji match last year. That was pretty good. We saw the Marufuji Ibushi match last year. That was not good at all. So yeah, it was just a bonkers weekend, and Noah's like really good, solid watch. If you like kind of basic, hard hitting wrestling without much, you know, part of the problem a lot of Noah fans have with Ozawa is that there is a lot of interference. Um, but then Noah's is, I had to get Wrestling Universe back. I got rid of it 2 weeks ago. I had to get it back because I'd heard about this match. Um, but yeah, just a mad weekend in Noah. So I feel like they've got their big show coming up in about 2 months, no, a bit less. I think they're going to build to Ozawa versus Kenta, even though they've done it already. Sean, Noah's really hard to find. The only place that you can reliably find it is on WrestlingUniverse.com, which is a paid service. Any of the non-paid sites on the high seas, if you know what I mean, with the pirates, not a lot of their stuff gets uploaded regularly. Some shows will get uploaded. Like when Almost was there, a few of them got uploaded. Um, I don't think David Serrons is actually injured. I don't think he is. But yeah, so WrestlingUniverse.com is where I watch Noah. I got rid of it because I wasn't really watching it that much. And then I got it back because I'd heard about this match and I wanted to see the Kenoh match from this morning. I haven't seen that yet. That was on today. I was catching up with G1 all day. Speaking of G1, Gabe Kidd is injured. Got injured in the first fucking match of the tournament against Takeshita. He had to forfeit the Zack Sabre Jr. match. We're 2 days into G1. And someone I think was going to be pushed majorly in that is Gabe Kidd, and he's fucking injured. This is a nightmare scenario. Sean says if he spends any more money on wrestling subs, the wife might actually leave you. There's a trick for that, Sean. I never got married. You know what I mean? I never got married, so I could spend all my own money on wrestling subs. And we spoke about this recently. I currently have AEW Plus on Trigger. I currently have Wrestle Universe again. I currently have Voices of Wrestling Network, which is a podcast one. I currently have the Stardom one and the New Japan World one. So I have 5 subscriptions at one, and Netflix as well, I suppose. Um, so uh, yeah, like could do more, but I actually just can't afford to have that much money coming out of the account so consistently on wrestling subscriptions. If I spend more money on it, yeah, I don't trust the word Triple H says, so it won't surprise me if he cashed in. I think Seth is cashing in, David. I do think he is. Um, I think that's the most likely outcome. Like in Punk, I think Seth will hold the title till next year's WrestleMania, where I think Sami Zayn will beat him for it. I think that would be a great story, but I don't like the idea of the cash-in being done this way. If you've seen what I said earlier about wait till you see the reactions online to Seth's cashing. People are going to lose their minds if it's the greatest thing ever. Um, I just don't like it. Not for me. Back to the G1. So there's a website called G1 sportprowrestling.com, and I'm embarrassed. Actually, maybe I can just show you. Can I do that? G1 that. Yeah. So I'm logged in. So this is a yearly pick'em on the G1, right? View the leaderboard. Look where I'm going. Does it say where I am? No, like it says if I go to my own and view your bracket, I'm 637th place after 2 nights. If you look at my picks here, I started okay on day one. That's night one. Night two today, I had a disaster. I got one pick correct. Um, I got the Gabe Kidd one. Obviously, we don't know what that result would have been. Where's the one I got correct? Taichi over Uemura. Uh, so that was my fucking G1. I really don't know how to navigate this injury if he's going to be gone. If you see here, I had him finishing. I had just missing out on qualification. Thought we were going to do a story where Umino would pip him on the last day. This is in my thing. Now I won't be surprised because and Umino lost today as well, which surprised me. I didn't know who to place there or there. I feel like with Zach as champion now, he needs to make at least the top 3 in the group. Uh, but I think they're pushing Takeshita to the final. He's going to lose in the final to Suji. And I thought if they had to have Zach finish second, because I think Tanahashi is going to finish third here. And Tanahashi's best opponent in this is Zach. They have tremendous chemistry. So I thought that they would go Tanahashi versus Zach, and then Umno versus Finley. And then that Suji and Takeshita would make the final and Suji would win. But I don't know. I'm on 12 points. I'm going 637th out of like 700. I don't know. Tune back in later for see how this. We'll keep up with this. Check it in next week. Um, we've had 2 rounds of matches so far, so it's early, just 10 rounds. We've had 2. We have a chance of making a comeback. This is a great website. Like if you want to go to like night 3 there, right? These are matches. You can look up the history of stats between uh, Tanahashi and Oleg Bolton. Oleg Bolton has been awesome in this tournament so far. Um, I tell you who's been a real shining light so far. You've had Oleg Bolton has been a shining light. Oia has been fairly fucking good. Callum Newman has been good so far. Evil has been a shit show again. I just have no interest. Taichi, who got in through. Taichi's only in there because Rocky Goto got injured, and Taichi's been awesome so far. But Taichi is a guy who just like seems to wake up once a year, every year for G1 and do really well. Um, who else have I been impressed with? Yoshihashi again. Dylan Maloney on 2 wins already. Fucking awesome. I don't think he's going to have many more wins for the rest of it, but they've established him as a threat early. This is how Gato likes to book. They've established Drilla as a threat early, which I didn't buy into. I thought he was going to get his wins late into the tournament. I thought he'd finish on about 2 or 3 wins. I have 3, but I thought they'd come late in the tournament. He'd struggle at start, but Gato obviously is a smarter booker than I am. He's getting his wins early, so he feels like more of a threat to the bigger names later in the tournament. So it's off to a good start. There's been some really good matches. The Takeshi Gabe Kidd match that Gabe Kidd got injured in was a great match. And Taichi had a great match on night one as well. Was it with Tanahashi? Yeah, Tanahashi, old man broken down Tanahashi. The Oleg Bolton, I got this one wrong. I thought Bolton would be Uemura, and Uemura would make a late surge in the tournament, but leave it too late. Um, this was a great match too. Just a really solid pro wrestling match. And now these shows are going to get a little bit easier to watch because it's only going to be 5 matches, 5 G1 matches per show rather than 10, which was on the first 2 shows. I really don't know how to navigate this Gabe Kidd because I think he was going to have some really big consequential wins. I think there was a very good chance he was beating Zack Sabre Jr. today in order to set up a title shot um, before Tokyo Dome. So, because like what generally happens is the champion will do at least 2 defenses between now and the Tokyo Dome. So we find out essentially the Tokyo Dome main event, which is the 4th of January. We find that out at the end of August when the G1 ends. Middle of August, really, end of August. Middle of August when the G1 ends, we find out the main event for the 4th January Tokyo Dome and spend the rest of your building to that. But the champion will make maybe 2, 3 defenses of the title, and the winner of the G1 will defend the briefcase a couple of times. I thought Gabe Kidd was going to be one of those people who challenges Zack Sabre Jr. throughout maybe September, October, November. And so I thought Gabe Kidd was going to win this morning, but Zack Sabre Jr. gets the forfeit victory. So we don't know how that's going to fuck up the whole point system that Gato has laid out. It's just a really tricky situation. David, they're saying they haven't announced how long he's out for. They actually are hoping that he'll be able to work the tournament. But I have my doubts. I have my doubts big time, like, because I don't know, like, how do like, if he missed today, how's he going to be right in 2 days' time or 3 days' time when the next B block show is on? How do you then expect him? Because he still has like 8 more matches to get through in a very short period of time. Uh, and what do you do? Are you going to bring someone in? Like, are you going to replace him? But he's already had 2 matches. That person's down points. I don't know. Do you think there's a Zanet will go up against Danielson again at Forbidden Door? I think if Danielson was going to wrestle Forbidden Door, we maybe we wouldn't know by now. Like, Zach's definitely going to be at Forbidden Door. He's the New Japan IWGP World Champion, and he's English. And it's in London. He's definitely going to be there. I really want to go to that. But my friend is getting fucking married the day before, or that weekend, same day actually, or the day before. I don't know, but same weekend. So it makes it really tricky to try and get there and stuff. Uh, Range, and I really, really want to go. Maybe I'll go to Glasgow to Dynamite earlier in the week. I think Zach will be there. I don't know if Danielson will be his opponent. Do you know what would be great? If he defended the title against Hechicero. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hechicero. Because Hechicero has recently signed a dual contract, which I spoke about as being potential before, more for Mascara Dorado and Mystico and stuff than Hechicero. But Hechicero is now dual contracted to CMLL and AEW. And I'm really interested to see what that looks like in the long run, because that's going to be CMLL's main way of combating AAA, now owned by WWE TKO, from siphoning off CMLL talent. They will use dual contracts with their promotional partner AEW to try and boost the money for their workers, but they will potentially also then lose some dates to them. But yeah, Sean, Zack versus Hechicero, CMLL versus, CMLL and New Japan have a great, but like, they have one of the best relationships in the business. We get Fantastica Mania every year, and we get a New Japan tour of CMLL every year. And they're great promotional partners, have been for a very long time. But I do think a Zack versus Hechicero match at Forbidden Door in London would be great. I would love to fucking see that match in a big setting like that. There's going to be 15, 16,000 fans. So that's where we're up to with the G1. Keep updating. What I would say to people as well is you can find G1 on the websites where pirates sell. And G1 is such a great watch because you get like 5 matches, but the matches are all in other place. And you get like some really good, like 7 minute, like hard hitting matches. And then you get like a really good, like submission style wrestling match, a work a limb wrestling match. And you might get a little comedy match in there. And then not an overstays, it's welcome on these G1 shows. And then you get a main event which will go 20 odd minutes. So it's really easy watching G1. I love it. Like it's one of my favorite times of the year. And I know this field isn't as strong this year. And I wasn't really like all in on it. And then I watched the first couple of shows. I'm not finished the second show yet. Um, I was like, yeah, I fucking love the G1. Now they were hard to watch because there were 10 match ones. They had all the matches from Block A and all the matches from Block B on both shows. But now during the week they're going to be in smaller arenas. I don't know. And the commentary is fantastic. Chris Charlton is a great commentator. Will keep you like totally up into all the storylines, weaving its way through the tournament. And G1 is really fun, especially like when you get towards the end and you start seeing who's going to qualify. Do think they should go back to maybe 2 qualifiers from each group. They've got 3 now. I think 2 is enough. Um, because it does make matches early in the tournament feel a little bit less consequential. Or yeah, consequential. Uh, but yeah, G1 is just such easy watching, particularly if like you skip the in between the matches. Because I'm normally watching these back. Because I'm in work when they're on. But you just like go match to match, watch 5 wrestling matches, maybe an hour and 10 minutes max of wrestling, maybe even probably a little bit less even, and you get like a real good variety of wrestling. And it's really when it gets to the later stages of this, guys are fucked. Like they get real fucked up like by the end of it, and they're just like willing their bodies through to the end of this tournament. And usually the final is like I've never seen a bad G1 final. It'll be something like Takeshita versus Suji, and we're going to find out if Suji can go at the level of Takeshita or whoever's in there. Like, I really want Takeshita to get to the final because the G1 final should really be this like unbelievable match, with stakes at the Tokyo Dome main event coming up. And I think like this is a 25-day Royal Rumble, and it should end in a great match. I think they're going to need Takeshita in there for that. He's the best worker they have at the minute, all around. Um, so yeah, when you get done those last few days, it's just such great stuff. TNA Slammiversary tonight. Um, TNA have done tremendous business with this. They're in the UBS arena, which AW ran a few years ago when AW were hot as shit and did like a big house there, like 12, 13,000 or something. But TNA are on the verge of breaking their North American attendance record for this show, which is like they've really marketed this show very, very well. AJ Styles has been named to make an appearance. I think that's really fucking cool. However, look, the card isn't something that interests me. I don't know about you guys. Um, but yeah, I think it's really great to see TNA. They haven't quite broke their North American attendance record yet. However, I'd be fucking shocked if they don't, because they're very, very close. I think the record is 6,700 that they did in Texas quite 10 years ago, I suppose. Um, and this is currently at about 6,300 or 400. So they're going to break that record. I think, they're going to get a lot of good eyes on it. The WWE partnership is helping in this sense. They're probably getting wrestlers robbed as well, like we've seen with Jordan Grace. I think we're going to see with Joe Hendry. The main event here is a 3-way: Joe Hendry, um, Trick Williams, and Mike Santana. I believe Joe Hendry is in there, so WWE affiliate wrestler Trick Williams doesn't have to eat a pin to Mike Santana. I think Mike Santana is going to win. Um, yeah, it's Devil. Like TNA was like, like also like Ash Shane as well. TNA really like saved his love for wrestling. Um, that TNA one back in our day was fucking like great. I'm delighted the company's still alive. I'm delighted to see they're doing good ticket sales. I hope they get a TV deal. And I hope that they can get to a position where they're not becoming just a pure feeder company to WWE. I would like to see him, the roster feels a little bit old to me at the minute. Is them to get more aggressive in going out there looking for independent up and comers. Like have Leon Slater at the moment, who's certainly an independent up and comer, was an independent, is now with them, an up and comer, tremendous upside. I would like to see him getting more aggressive, finding new young talent to develop. Then maybe they'll go on to WWE or AEW, whoever in the future. But I think that's probably their best bet of getting like fresh young talent now, is getting aggressive on the indies, looking for people, getting them early, and developing them themselves. Um, but yeah, like they have such a great history as a company. I really want to see them do well. Delighted they're selling those tickets. I think that's a nice note to end on. We've gone an hour and 10. Fuck. Jesus. Hour and 10. Had decent viewership the whole way throughout here. Love that. With loads of interaction. Lots of deadly questions at the start. Always thanks for the questions, because it's the interaction. When I did the first couple of All Elite Morros, it was very much uh, I recorded it and then put it out. But it's the interaction for me is what makes it the best. Like I didn't think of Hechicero Zach match, and then when Sean said Dynasty match, I thought like, what's a cool match that'd be similar to that? And I was like, fuck Hechicero. Wouldn't have thought of that. Like, and it's just yeah, the interaction in general is just class. So thanks a million for the interaction. I'd say Dunphy fucked off ages ago, but thanks Dunphy for coming in, and thanks Shane for coming and giving me stick. Don't cancel All Elite Morrow because you don't like my opinions. And we'll be back next week, same time. Try and stick to the Sundays 8 p.m. It's a good time. I think people are just chilling. But yeah, thanks a million, everyone. See you guys.